Wyoming Superintendent of Public Instruction announces guidelines for sexually explicit books in schools. Senator Cynthia Lummis supports a bill that would use public lands to solve the affordable housing crisis. And a drunk poacher in Natrona County gets caught red-handed. We'll take a look at these stories and more today from Wyoming's largest news organization. I'm Wendy Kaur for Cowboy State Daily. When parents across Wyoming complained to her last year about sexually graphic books in schools, State Superintendent of Public Instruction Megan Degenfelder was skeptical. So she started reviewing the books in question and said Wednesday at a press conference held at the Capitol in Cheyenne that she was disappointed to discover that parents' concerns were well-founded. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that in response, Degenfelder gathered a group of school board members, school and business professionals, and parents to draft a statewide guidance for school districts searching to beef up their library policies on choosing and weeding out sexually graphic books.
What they came up with was a guidance document that pulled from some school districts and that defined sexually explicit content, sexually explicit conduct, so that schools may have a starting point if they want to even start to define what some of the reported problems are.
The guidance is not a mandate, but an optional template, Degenfelder said, adding that the guidance isn't a banning policy. Additionally, she said the goal of having state guidelines is not to discriminate against people for their gender identity or sexual orientation. U.S. Senator Cynthia Lummis has co-sponsored legislation that would allow federal land to be used for public housing. Political reporter Leo Wolfson says the Helping Open Underutilized Space to Ensure Shelter Act, or HOUSES Act, would open up parcels of federally owned land for states or local governments to buy for the purpose of increasing the availability of housing.
There are estimates out there that believe that this bill could single-handedly resolve the affordable housing issue in Wyoming.
Leo points out that although 85% of the land would be dedicated to housing, the bill would also allow local governments to build facilities such as assembly halls, fire stations, and industrial complexes. Well, as a man learned the hard way, passing out drunk with a poached Wyoming mule deer in your truck is not a good idea. And it's a particularly bad idea if you already have a string of prior DUI and poaching violations under your belt. This tale of woe was detailed in the Wyoming Game and Fish Department's 2022 law enforcement report, which was just recently released. Although the suspect wasn't named, an East Casper game warden came across the truck parked along the highway near Edgerton with the driver unconscious in the cab and a large buck mule deer in the bed of the truck. When a Natrona County deputy arrived and arrested the driver on a DUI charge, it was discovered that the suspect had a history of DUI charges, including a felony conviction. And to top it off, the game warden determined that the suspect had shot and killed the buck out of season and had pending wildlife violations in 4 Wyoming counties. I'll be back with more news right after this.
No one should go hungry on Thanksgiving, and yet hundreds of men, women, and children from our community are homeless and hurting this holiday season. Yet you can provide hope. Just $2.58 provides a hot meal and life-changing services at the Wyoming Rescue Mission, like safe, welcoming shelter, support, and long-term recovery to help them get back on their feet. Learn more and give online at wyomission.org. That's wyomission.org.
Well, before the centrist No Labels political organization can even think about fielding a third-party candidate in the 2024 presidential election, it must first get on the ballot in all 50 states. No Labels has submitted a petition that was approved by the Wyoming Secretary of State's office to gather signatures to get on the 2024 general election ballot as a political party in the Cowboy State. And Washington Irving's Headless Horseman took to the streets in Green River on Tuesday, carrying on a long-standing tradition of the mythical rider appearing on Halloween to the delight of, or fright of, the residents of Wyoming's Sleepy Hollow. Cowboy State Daily's Jake Nichols reports that this ghoul wasn't quite as frightening as in the stories.
So in the legend of Sleepy Hollow, the short story version written by Washington Irving, and in the movie, the Headless Horseman is kind of spooky. Not so with the Wyoming version. Colton Kraft rode through downtown Green River on Halloween Tuesday without his head, but villagers did not flee from him. They ran to him, especially the kids, who wanted to pet his horse Spudley. Also, this Ichabod Crane was giving out candy.
And that's today's news. You can get your own free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the subscribe button on CowboyStateDaily.com. I'm Wendy Kaur for Cowboy State Daily.